In this video, I'm going to show you how to add fractions with uncommon denominators. This is part 2. You know that denominators are the bottom number of the fraction and show how many parts the whole is divided into. We can see this on the fraction circles. Halves are the brown circle. And you can see that the whole is divided into 2 equal parts. The green shows fifths, and it shows that the whole is divided into 5 equal parts. So we need to have a common denominator in order to add these fractions. Now, I like to use my fraction chart. Remember that it is in your math journal and in your math folder. You can also Google it. Sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't, but I always start here first. Now, when I am trying to find a common denominator, I need to ask myself if one of the denominators is a multiple of. And the reason that I do this is because it is the fastest way to find a common denominator. I only need to change one of my fractions if one is a multiple of the other. So that is the first thing I need to do. So I can use the chart, and if I go down halves on the chart until I hit fifths, I can see that it's right in the middle of fifths. And so 2 is not a multiple of 5. I can check that with multiplication as well by skip counting. And you always use the smaller denominator, which is 2, and skip count until you reach 5 or go over. So if I skip count by 2's, that would be 2, 4, 6. And 6 is larger than 5, and I never skip counted and reached 5, so 2 is not a multiple of 5. So, is the denominator a multiple of the other? The answer is no, it is not. So I need to find a quick common denominator. So a quick common denominator is multiplying the 2 denominators together. So that would be 2 times 5 equals 10. Now I know that my new denominator needs to be 10. I always want to check because if one is a multiple of the other, then it's quicker. But if not, then I need to use the quick common denominator method. I found a quick common denominator, and now I need to rename it says both fractions. So I need to use multiplication. So 5 times 2 is 10. So I need to also multiply the numerator by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. And 2 times 5 is 10. So 1 times 5 would equal 5. Now I have renamed my fractions. I can check them on the fraction chart. If I go down the halves all the way to tenths, then I can see that 1/2 is equal to 5/10. And if I go down the fifths until I get to tenths, then I can see that 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So now I can add up, now that I have my new equation. 5/10 plus 2/10 is 7/10. Let's try another one. In this problem, we're going to add 4/9 plus 4/36. Now, the first thing I usually do is grab my chart, but I do know that ninths are not on the chart, and it doesn't go as high as 36. So I'm going to have to use a different strategy, and that'll be the multiple strategy to find the common denominator. Now, the first thing I need to do is find out if one of the denominators is a multiple of the other. If it is, then I will only need to find one equivalent fraction. So to do that, I'm going to take the smallest denominator, and I am going to start skip counting. So 9 times 1 would be 9. times 2 would be 18, times 3 would be 27, times 4 would be 36, and oops, there it is. So I know that 9 times 4 is 36. So 36 is the common denominator, and over here it says that if I have a common denominator, I just need to find an equivalent fraction for the other. So 4/36 can stay the same, and I need to rename 4/9 with a denominator of 36. So I know that 9 times 4, I see it over here, is 36, so I need to multiply my numerator by 4 as well. So 4 times 4 is 16. So now I have my new equation, and I can add it up. 16/36 plus 4/36 are 20/36. Let's do another problem. In this problem, we're going to add 2/3 plus 3/4. Now, thirds and fourths are numbers that are in my fraction chart, so I'm going to get it. Okay, so the first thing I need to ask myself is one of these denominators a multiple of the other? So if one is the multiple of the other, then I simply need to find the equivalent for the other. So if I go down thirds, so I'm doing 2/3. If I go down thirds, let's see, I can do 1/3. If I go down to fourths right here, I notice it goes right in the middle. And even if I do 2/3, it goes in the middle. So it looks like thirds are not multiples of fourth, but I can also check it with multiplication. Or skip counting, and I can do 3 is the smaller denominator, so I can skip count by 3. 3, 6, and I'm already bigger than 4. So I know that 3 is not a multiple of 4. So that is not the case. So now I need to find the quick common denominator, and the quick common denominator is found by multiplying both denominators. 3 times 4 equals 12. So my new denominator is going to be 12. And I need to find equivalent fractions for both, it says, for both of them. And I may be able to use my chart again. So let me erase these lines and come back over. Now if I go to 3/4, which is right here, I can go down to 12ths. 3/4 down to 12ths. And I can see that it is 9/12. If I do the same with thirds and I follow down to from 2/3 to 12ths, I can see that it is 8/12. Now I can check that with multiplication. 4 times 3 is 12, so 3 times 3 is 9, so that's right. And 3 times 4 is 12, so if I multiply 2 times 4, I get 8, so that's correct as well. So now I have my new equation, and I can add. And 8/12 plus 9/12 is 17/12. And that is a improper fraction. It is top heavy. So 12/12 would be a whole. So 17/12 minus 12/12, which is the whole, equals 5/12. Okay. So this would equal 1 and 5/12 because I took a whole out, right? That's my whole right there. And then I'm left with 5/12, 1 and 5/12. Let's do one more problem. In this problem, we are going to add 3/7 plus 2/5. Now, I know that fifths are on my fraction chart, but sevenths are not. So my fraction chart's not going to help. And the first question I need to ask myself is whether or not one is a multiple of the. And when I look, the smaller denominator is 5, so I can skip count and use multiples. So that would be 5, 10, and already I'm bigger than 7. So 5 is not a multiple of 7. So that is a no, which means I need to use the quick common denominator. The quick common denominator is 7 times 5, the two denominators, which is equal to 35. So now I need to rename both of my fractions with that common denominator of 35. All right. And I need to find my numerator for my equivalent fraction. So 5 times 7 is 35, so 2 times 7 is 14. So 2/5 is equal to 14/35. And 7 times 5 is 35, so 3 times 5 is 15. So now I have my new equation, 15/35 plus 14/35, which is 29/35.